Oi! Budge!
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 Today we are talking about community lost. So many of the places where we used to find belonging and community are no longer existing.
Face-to-face contact is huge, and it's what we're losing a lot of in modern society.
Happiness is so much related to our personal relationships and that community. So we think we're gaining, but potentially we're actually losing.
We seem to have missed that when we haven't replaced it with something. We feel great when we put we ahead of me, so do more of it. It's selfish being altruistic.
Welcome to Budge, How to Fudge Being Human, our podcast on behavioural science, a bit of nudge theory and psychology to help you be better at being human. And today we are talking about community lost. And I'm here, of course, with my good mate, Dr. Darren Coppin, speaker, writer, lover, and of course, inspiration behind Journeys Don't Stop Believing, just a small town girl living in a lonely world. How are you, sir?
Lonely and a girl. Mr. Paul Miles, Managing Director of the Busy Group, one of Australia's largest education, training and employment organisations, and once held the world record for longest individual leg hair from your shin.
I've got this.
Pretty gross.
Mate, we are here to talk about community lost. What does a loss of community mean for humans? Because it's we talk a lot about where humans have come from and what our natural behaviours are. And of course, the last 200 years have been insane changes in human history. Industrial revolution, of course, and now more recently the digital technology, revolution 2.0, whatever it is now. Massive changes to the way humans are living and therefore behaving, which goes against so much of what's natural to us. In fact, this is one of the key parts of your upcoming book entitled
It's All BS.
It's All BS, which will be on all the finest bookshops in
Bethnal Green.
Bethnal Green.
There's only one.
And it's all BS. And this is one of the things you're going to talk about is what does the loss of community mean for humans. Interesting, of course, you and I, through various periods of our lives, something I've talked about before is despite the atheism now, our very, very religious upbringings. And literally there are points in time in my life where Sunday morning was church and Sunday school. I had boys brigade, I had my family were doing drama and the choir and girl guides, and I played soccer on a Saturday morning for boys brigade. It was life. And I know, interestingly, you had sort of similar times, in fact, to the point where you were like considering priesthood at 12, which has to be the most ironic thing I've ever heard in my life.
Shut up. No, but I thought if you believe in God, you believe in God, so you've got to commit to it. But I couldn't get some of the answers I was particularly looking for, so I looked elsewhere for them.
But of course, that is just one of many institutions that used to exist that no longer exist, and increasingly things like even workplaces we'd be there for life. We go into an employer, that was our life, we got our friends, there was often a social club attached to a workplace. Now we're at a workplace at 18 months, 2 years. So many of the places where we used to find belonging and community are no longer existing. And of course, it's having a massive impact on humans being the most social species there is.
Yeah, I think what you just said is one of the most profound utterances ever to come from your oral sphincter.
It's probably the only one, to be honest.
And that's belonging, because that's what community means, different things to different people. We know we evolved in small family groups, herds, then groups and tribes. And communities, whatever that means to an individual. But what it consistently seems to mean is a sense of belonging, shared purpose, shared cultural values, shared habits, whether you agree with them or not. And we've lost it because of many reasons, but also because of this. One of the core ones is this loss of institutions that dominate our lives. So once we moved out of these communities of family groups, it was really the institutions of states or church or religion or Islam and workplace for a long time, the military.
Even the military, Terry. You mentioned conscription the other day, that even the military would actually give people a huge sense of belonging post school, of course.
Yeah, and I've met a lot of people that were conscripted and really didn't want to be, but actually loved it.
Yeah.
That sense of purpose and unity in groups.
And of course, there's a massive issue when people leave the military, is that sense of belonging. And
there's a huge amount of work I've looked into with that. But and even political parties, you used to be massively aligned to one or another, and it gives you this in-group feeling.
But we still are. We're just not necessarily involved, are we? People tend to be massively aligned to the left or right, but not necessarily the parties that represent that.
Yeah, well, the independence, and what do they call it in Australia? The Teal Revolution, the Teal. Independence is much greater share, and in Britain right now the opposition, if there was an election tomorrow based on last week's polls, the Scottish National Party would be the official opposition. So it's these small, more fragmented. It's more of a commentary on the Conservatives. But so look, we're massively altruistic, we're massively empathetic. And we're giving ourselves fewer and fewer opportunities to do that within our communities.
But before we say that, though, when we say we've lost all these institutions, it's not a case of replacing them. We haven't replaced them with more sporting efforts or sporting clubs. We haven't replaced them with social media technology. I look at Facebook groups. People belong to these massive Facebook groups, and then through those Facebook groups that they go off and do social activities. Have we lost them or have we replaced them?
No, I mean, and that's one of the redeeming parts of social media. But then again, I found myself the other day messaging my brother instead of phoning him up or FaceTiming him, and I shouldn't have done that. It was a mad rush. But and it can enable you to distance yourself or facilitate that. But you're right. You can. I know you've harnessed social media to get people physically together, and particularly people that might be having a hard time, and actually that interaction, that socializing, that face-to-face contact is huge, and it's what we're losing a lot of in modern society, and largely because we're moving away from our families. We're able to move.
Why do we do that, Daz? I mean, that's a really important question. Both you and I have moved away to the other side of the planet from our families. Is that a reflection of our families? But Australia was born of this. But given that we are such social creatures, it's not instinctive, is it, for us to move away from our families in this way?
No, but we always want to better ourselves and improve, so we move to where we think we can do that, and we disregard the importance of family and people being close to us and community.
So we lose this community for the benefit of wanting a better life, better jobs, all the rest of it, more property, land in Australia, that sort of thing. But then humans, though, happiness is so much related to our personal relationships and that community. So we think we're gaining, but potentially we're actually losing.
Yeah, but then we create new communities in the exact image of the one we left. So we hang out with POMs. More
Do
than
it's funny.
So
my longest, apart from yourself, and a few others, my longest term friends on the Gold Coast are from a group of British expats from the old British expats website pre-social media, and we still all hang out together.
Yeah.
And they'd be my oldest friends on the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
It's
weird, and because of our upbringing and community that we had, and culture and shared culture and sense of belonging, I guess. No matter how much we love Australia, we've still got that. But our kids won't be doing that, necessarily. They're integrated and mixing.
And ironically, of course, my eldest daughter's off to the UK, and we'll probably end up hanging around with lots of Australians, because that's what naturally we do.
Yes, walkabout bars, if they still exist. But the weird thing about humans is that we're incredibly altruistic. And we will actually help others at a cost to ourselves. It's not just us. A lot of animal species do this. But I think humans, more than any other species, and including our closest primates, we will help out each other. And if you more than primates will. So there's these amazing experiments that Tomasello writes about, and Yuval Harari Noah Harari, they both agree that humans' cooperation
is Homo sapiens, right? And
Homo
Deus, Homo sapiens,
the author of that,
which everyone should read.
No,
seriously, it's fantastic.
It is brilliant. But there are these experiments where if you put 2 3-year-old children together, well, they both have to tug on a rope to try and get some sweets that are on the other side of this perspex screen towards them. They will do it, but invariably one will get their sweets first. But what they then do is help the other one to get their sweets. And also invariably, if that first one gets 3 sweets and the other one gets 1, they will share.
Will they
they've
really?
got two and
Really?
two.
Okay.
Now, if you do this with chimps,
I was going to ask. My next question was: do other species do this?
no. If you
Right.
do it with chimps, they will pull it until one gets the sweets, and then they give up. Game over.
Do they share the sweets?
No.
Ah.
No, they will not share them equitably.
Yeah.
So humans have this incredible drive. Now, we're terrible at self-regulation on ourselves.
Yep.
You know, it's the bottom of the VIA character strengths survey, the least common of 24 strengths we might possess. So we don't have this me self-regulation, but we have a we self-regulation. We will not have 3 sweets in order to give someone else that we don't even know, it can be a stranger, help them out and make sure that they've got an equitable number of sweets as us. Or we won't just keep the 3 and walk off. We will help somebody else ensure that they get it. And this is, from what I can read, unique amongst animal species. This way we have this we will forfeit our own benefit to help others.
Do you know, where my mind goes on this, right, is the fact that we've had this massive growth in inequality, particularly through COVID over the last 2 years. The rich has got really rich, the poor have got poorer. And the arguments in the UK, we referenced the UK and the Scottish nationalists just then, the fact that they've just had this most ridiculous thing of slashing tax for the super wealthy, you know, and you know, I'm happy to say that, was it trickle-down economics, you know, it doesn't work. It's been shown not to work. Why do political parties not use behavioural science to demonstrate that taxation is good for humans, given that we're willing to share like this?
That's a brilliant question. And it has been shown, I'm sure I've read some experiment, it might have been from the Behavioural Insights team, that if you say what your tax is being spent on, people are more happy and faster at paying their tax. But it is huge. You know, all indigenous societies are egalitarian, and yet in a book by Christopher Ryan, recently read, Civilized to Death, he cites data that suggests that the United States is the most inequitable country, not on earth, in history.
Yeah.
Against the Romans, the British Empire, you know, revolutionary Russia, this sort of thing, and it's insane, and it contributes to this feeling of hollowness, this loss of community, this loss of belonging. It's just not fair, and it eats away at us as a species.
Mate, so this is such a key subject, right? Such an important subject. Can I ask, why have you made it such a big part of your book? It's all BS.
Well, it's all BS. The BS stands for behavioural science, but it seems to bring everything together, because we do have this. We can achieve and succeed, and we have this hollowness and the sense of belonging that, say, religion would have had in this more secular society, in the sense of rules. We seem to have missed that when we haven't replaced it with something. But we don't have to replace it with anything but our basest and most evolutionary programmed human drivers. And
surely there's an impact to that. If we don't replace it with something, there must be an impact to
huge levels of anxiety, stress and depression. And
lack of socialness.
When you're depressed, you isolate yourself.
Yeah.
And isolating yourself is shown to be one of the fastest ways of increasing depression. Like you can track job seekers or the unemployed when they're made redundant or become unemployed. Actually, in the first 3 to 5 weeks, they socialise more, and their well-being goes up. But then after that, they socialise less and less and less, and exactly correlated with that is the increase in depression. We're sad. You know, what's the biggest punishment we can give to somebody other than executing them?
Isolate them.
What do they call that when they put you in a slammer?
Confinement.
Solitary confinement. Exactly. So it's against everything that's about being human, and community and a sense of belonging is what we miss, and we need to bring it back. And like you said, it touches on so many things, from taxation to a more egalitarian society, to institutions, to replacing that, to using social media in the right way to bring people together physically. So it's a huge subject.
So you know, I'm a great believer of the prediction of the future is based on the behaviour of the past, and humans repeat what they've done, and that sort of thing. This is a really hard one. It's one of those ones where I look at where it's not something that's happened in the past, is it? So we're effectively having this situation where we are increasingly becoming isolated. There's this massive loss of community, loss of those institutions. We're not replacing it with anything. It makes it quite hard to predict what's going to happen in the future. So I guess there's 2 questions. Can you predict what's going to happen in the future if we continue to have this loss of community, but is there a way of us actually stopping it, considering that we don't seem to be having a very good effort to prevent it at the moment?
Yeah, it's massive. How do you say we want to go back to egalitarianism?
Because we don't. We actually don't. The other side of that is we don't, do we?
No, I want free-ply toilet paper and air conditioning.
Totally. Yeah.
It's and the coordination and cooperation of humans is remarkable. But it's the role of employers. You can't go against the tide. You have to go with what works at the moment. And what works, what happened to governments being the benevolent overseer, if they ever were, paternalistic, maternalistic people doing what's best for everybody, rather than it's all just about scoring points on a balance sheet or a budget sheet. It's all about money at the moment. But employers are changing. People's awareness of this is changing. But employers are going to this 4-day-a-week thing and saying it's more important to spend time with your family and your communities. Imagine going there 4 days a week. What are you going to do with that? Well, you're going to socialise. That's what humans do. And we'll be better at it. We'll be more supportive. And it's shown that productivity doesn't decrease if you cut the working week by 20%.
Yeah, and there's a massive experiment in the UK, and I think it's recently kicking off in Australia too, around trying this 4-day work week. And it's fascinating. Again, a subject for a whole new podcast, where I think our view of government from benevolent has changed so much over the years that employers are actually stepping in and industry steps in so many ways, whether it's around this community, but around bigger social issues like, for example, social housing or the environment or climate change, where industry and employers are actually now trying to make the difference that it's apparent that government can't.
Yeah, I mean, working in a not-for-profit as you do, that will be top of mind. But for most, the balance sheet and the bottom line is literally the bottom line on the balance sheet, and the profit and loss. That's all that matters.
I think we're still seeing though. I think we're seeing large employers that I work with wanting to engage more to improve their sort of social impact. I think that is absolutely an improvement, but whether or not it's genuine, because they want to make a difference, on whether or not they think it's going to support the bottom line, I suppose is the question.
And I think generally and genuinely humans do want to make a difference. The fastest way that I can see in research of improving well-being is by volunteering, helping others, doing stuff without any expectation of return.
That's massive,
That's
isn't it, on your well-being?
Happiest. And so hopefully that will filter through as we move forward.
Mate, I'm looking forward to this book. You've only been promising it for about 5 years, so I'm guessing. And we won't have to go to Bethnal Green to get it, I assume. You probably have it somewhere in Australia or online.
No.
Mate, what are the takeaways? What are the takeaways from this subject? Community loss, the behavioural science of losing community. What are the key takeaways for people listening?
Well, luckily, I knew you were going to ask me that, but make an effort. Mix in person, make an effort to speak to people.
Call your brother
in person, or physically. And we feel great when we put we ahead of me. So do more of it, because it's selfish being altruistic.
Good stuff, mate. When can we expect the book? In all seriousness, what are you thinking? 2 years from now, realistically?
No, it'll take 2 years.
I know we're not doing budget, you're basically writing.
But I don't know. I've got a 3.5 month tour around the world coming up, but then within a year.
Good stuff, mate. Thank you as always. You can find our podcasts on YouTube, on Spotify and Apple. We're also on all social media platforms, or most of them anyway. Can we have some likes, shares, comments? We'd love to hear what you think about this subject. It's such an important one for literally our species. As always, thank you for watching, and look forward to seeing you in our next podcast.